only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters, where we're going to bring you the news and reviews of some wonderful brews. My name is Dan Baker, as always joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner,
and the household from entertainer,
Wayne Baker.
And today we're very excited to have with us a very, very good new friend of the show, Mr.
Chris Harvey.
Chris, thank you so much for coming out today. Now you brought a few things with you, which I'm salivating
And those things
over.
are beer.
Yes, those things are beer.
and one of them is a secret, which I'm super excited
Yeah,
about.
they're just sitting there across the table from me, and I'm just being stared down by them.
And
Well,
all those empty glasses waiting to be filled.
yes, this is true. Well, in order to get us closer to being able to drink this beer. So there are a few things that we found out worthy of letting you know for as far as news goes. The first thing of which, there was a video that Steph shared with myself and Wayne recently. It is how to not get drunk. So Steph, how did you end up finding this?
It's all over social media. Everyone is tweeting it and sharing it, and Jim Koch apparently has found the answer to all of our prayers, apparently.
Yes, so basically Jim Koch goes through how he is able to drink so much beer and not get drunk over and over and over and over. So Jim Koch went through his secret of how he's able to drink so much beer but not really get drunk. And his secret is yeast.
Bum, bada, bum.
Yeah, active yeast, like you get it at the grocery store, basically, like he said. And Koch has said that for years he has swallowed your standard Fleischmann's dry yeast before he drinks, stirring the white powdery substance in with some yogurt to make it a little more palatable. 1 teaspoon per beer right before you start drinking. And he learned the trick from his good friend, Dr. Joe, who's a craft beer legend in his own right. Educated at Harvard with the troika of degrees. He's got a BA, a JD, whatever that is, and an MBA. Koch is no slouch, but his friend Dr. Joe was a flat-out genius, apparently, with a PhD in biochemistry from Brooklyn Polytechnic Institute, and an early job in the fermentation sciences department at Fleischmann's. It goes on to say that Dr. Joe probably knew more about fermentation and alcohol metabolism than perhaps any man who has ever lived, and Koch lovingly refers to him as the best brewer who's ever lived, coming from a man who many in the craft beer scene consider probably the top brewer.
Yeah, that's pretty high praise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting with the yeast. So what is it, a teaspoon per beer?
That seems like a lot of dry yeast, too.
Right, especially if you're going to mix it with the yogurt. That's a lot of dairy that you end up putting into your body.
Yeah.
But apparently 1 teaspoon per beer will kind of negate what happens.
They will mitigate, not
Jim
eliminate.
Koch is also an extremely social guy. I mean, when he goes to these events, and he gets out his Sam Adams glasses from his bag and he's walking around with a Sam Adams glass, I mean, he is talking and socializing a lot more than he's drinking. So
Right.
I think how he spaces out the amount that he drinks probably has a lot to do with it as well.
I don't know. It makes sense. I mean, especially if you do it right before you drink and the yeast is still sitting in your stomach and the alcohol hits it. I mean, them little buggers are going to get with some
Them little
fermenting.
buggers.
Well, and I talked to a few homebrew friends about this, and we talked about how, at least in a homebrew, you have that like last centimeter left in the bottle, especially if you're bottle conditioning. Why not just swig the whole bottle and get some of that leftover yeast in the bottle?
And then that would sort of be the same kind
perhaps
of thing.
that would have the same effect. I don't know. I mean, it's worth trying, especially if you're going to go to a beer dinner and you're going to be consuming some really high alcohol beers.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps give it a try so you can have more than just 1 or 2 beers.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
But this article has definitely gotten a lot of attention on social media, and a lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah.
So.
I'd really like to try it.
It might be worth.
I'd actually like to try get some and do it and say, okay, I'm going to drink, 4 relatively high-ish beers.
Sessionable.
Fancy.
Yeah, Dan's version of sessionable beers, and take 4 teaspoons of yeast, mix them with some yogurt, and see if
We haven't
feel
done
like
an
I'm not
experiment since the Halloween episode when we did the black.
Although
and
we
the
didn't
skunking.
science so well that time. We set it up very well. You set it up very well,
Yeah.
but we were like, I forget which one's which.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be all up for an experiment. Now, how much does yeast really cost?
Oh, dry
it's
yeast is
cheap.
cheap.
Is it really? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it's
yeah.
like a.
I figure in
You
the
buy
name-
it in those little packets in the baking aisle for like 20 cents. I mean,
Oh,
it's-
that's not bad at
yeah,
all.
it's
or you
really
can
cheap.
buy like a big container.
Although
of it.
the interesting thing though is we're going to need a control, so we're going to have to like sit and drink 6 beers
Which
without the
one?
yeast,
Or one of
and see
us
how
could
drunk
be the
we get.
control.
Yeah, and then do
Our
it with
guest
the
that
yeast.
episode will be the control. Rich can drive
We
them
should
home.
not tell them. We should all eat the yeast beforehand, have a guest on, and have like 7 10+% beers.
Oh,
That would be mean.
That
and
would
funny.
be very mean.
it's all in the name
We
of
just
science.
have to make sure we have a ride home
It's all about
for
science.
them.
Yes, science indeed. Apparently, what Dr. Joe knew about this was that active dry yeast has an enzyme in it called alcohol dehydrogenases, or ADH for short. Did I say that right? Anybody know? All right, good.
Yeah.
I'm getting nods. Roughly put, ADH is able to break alcohol molecules down into their constituent parts of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
None of which by themselves get you drunk.
Right. So this is the same thing that happens when your body metabolizes alcohol in its liver. And Dr. Joe realized that if you also have that enzyme in your stomach when the alcohol first hits it, the ADH will begin breaking it down before it gets to your bloodstream and thus to your brain. So there is actually a lot of good science behind this. And as Wayne had said, it will mitigate, not eliminate, the effects of alcohol, as Koch so lovingly reiterated to the masses. Yeah. So I feel like this would be good for us to try. Whether we record it or not is a different story.
That's certainly a good trick because, I mean, there are times when you want to sit and you want, there's so many great beers. I want to try them. I want to try them all. But you don't want to get, I mean, we went to that bottle share at Mary Sixpack, and I had a little wee bit too much that night. It would have been nice to have some yeast in my stomach ahead of time.
Yeah, just to prepare for something like that
something
when
like
you know
that,
you're
yeah.
going to consume a lot. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, the next thing that we saw is there is going to be a beer fest that's not like your average beer fest. And sure, there are countless beer festivals happening everywhere, pretty much all the time. And while most present the same sort of scene, tables, taps, brewery reps, and crowds of relatively enthusiastic and thirsty beer nerds or just drunks lining up to grab a glass full of the latest and greatest suds, there is one that's so out of the ordinary that it's in a class pretty much all of its own because it requires its guests to be completely nude as they enter. And nudity is a requirement for the Sunny Rest Resort's annual beer festival, which takes place this year, Saturday, June 28th, 1 to 5 p.m. Now, stupid me did not... Oh, there we go. I found out where it is.
I was just going to ask you where it was.
Yeah.
In Palmerton.
It is, yeah. So,
Isn't that near Allentown?
yeah, this article only really has it listed as the Poconos, but I don't know the exact location of it because I didn't think to look that up.
When is it?
It is, what are you thinking about going?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was thinking about what the weather's going to be like, especially if it's in the Poconos.
Oh, no, it's in June. It's the end of June.
okay, so
June 28th. Now, I will admit I'm not able to go that day because I have a wedding I have to go to, so...
Convenient.
Yeah.
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 Now, I usually, I think about wearing looser fitting clothes to Beer Fest because, you do want to
When I
have
go to Beer
room for
Fest,
all
I
the
just
beer.
imagine everyone naked anyway,
No.
so...
But I think nudity is pushing it a little bit. I don't think I'd
Yeah,
be
that's
very
a
a
comfortable.
little bit.
It's an interesting. So it's not like a beer fest put on by nudists.
No,
it's
here's the
just
thing.
a beer fest where people
Right. At this vacation getaway, you're free to wear a robe or a towel or pants or clothes in general around, but at this resort, for the beer festival, only birthday suits will be tolerated. There's a flyer that was to the event, which, Wayne, are we able to post that on the site? Is that something you would want to post on the
Oh
site?
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
if you want to.
I think there's actually naked people on the poster, though. I don't.
Oh.
I think
We are
They
under-
were blurred out.
Oh,
all
was
right,
it
I was
blurred?
going to say we are under no obligation to censor them, but we can if we need to.
Right. No, they were like the black censor bars around it.
okay.
Tickets to this event are $16 in advance and $18 the day of the festival. And along with entry to Beer Fest and unlimited samples from breweries near and far, the ticket will include a free day's admission to Sunny Rest Resort. Festgoers can also take advantage of discounts on rooms and campsites, and the after-party festivities, which also require nudity, take place at the resort's Streakers Bar and Flashers nightclub. So,
Wow.
yeah. And the article recommends that if you go, pack light and don't forget the high SPF sunscreen. Now getting on to something that's a little more...
Thank you.
I was about to say a little more commonplace, but not so much. There's a molecular archaeologist at the University of Pennsylvania. His name is Patrick McGovern, and he's devoted much of his academic career to the study of prehistoric alcoholic beverages. And using some technological wizardry involving something called Fourier transform infrared spectrometry, Dr. Pat, as he
Or what
is-
for short? That sounds like it needs to have a.
I know, right?
I'm just FTIS,
There you
FTIS, FTIS,
FTIS.
FTIS.
FTIS. Wow.
He chemically analyzes residues found in ancient pottery from archaeological excavation sites around the world, detecting evidence of some former ingredients to their alcoholic beverages. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because he is teaming up with Dogfish Head
Sweet.
to get some of these commercially produced. Let's see here. And perhaps the world's first commercial application of a PhD in archaeology. The professor then passes on his ancient recipes, as we just said, to Delaware's Dogfish Head Brewery, where the drinks are brewed and bottled. King Midas was Dr. Pat's first beer recreation muse, and although he's better known as the protagonist of the Golden Touch fable, Midas was an actual monarch who ruled over... There's a lot of names in here that I still
Midas
can't pronounce.
was a real person?
Apparently, yeah. He
I always thought that was like
ruled
a fairy
over
tale.
Phrygia in modern Turkey in the 8th century BCE, and in 1957, Penn Museum researchers excavated his tomb, in which they found the corpse of an old man, a heap of fancy textiles, and a collection...
Gold?
No, but bronze.
Beer, apparently.
A collection of bronze drinking vessels from the funerary feast. And 30 years later, Dr. Pat studied these vessels and found that they contained a beverage that was mixed fermented barley, grapes, and honey, as well as a bittering agent that was likely from saffron rather than hops.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Pat wanted to recreate this Midas's funerary feast, complete with a spicy barbecue lamb that'll be there. Steph, I know you're just dying to get some of that.
I'll have the beer.
Yeah. And there will be a lentil entree, cold from different vessels. But first, he needed a brewer to make the beer, which brings back in Dogfish
else?
Head. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Who else are you
Of
going to
course.
do? I mean, what else are they doing? The
They're the
meteorite?
king
We
of
did
the
talk about the
ancient
moon one.
ales.
Well, they have a whole ancient ale series.
That's right, yeah.
And, although we did talk about in the last episode that
The fossil.
the
whale
fossil and the idea that and like Trevor, I think it was, who said there's a reason we don't make those beers anymore.
Yeah, because
so
there's better
it's an interesting sort of academic and like just an experience to say what these things might have tasted like, but
Yeah.
that's no guarantee that they were good.
Yeah.
And obviously any craft gets better, through the ages as people.
Right. Now, he did actually pitch the idea to some breweries besides Dogfish Head. And he had about 20 or 25 microbreweries
Did they all say
show up.
F-tat?
Yeah, pretty much. That was FTIS.
Yeah, but they would have never mind.
Yeah, no. He began
F-tis,
to
F-tat.
he began to get some samples in the mail, which I don't understand how that's possible considering it's
Tell him
beer.
it's olive oil.
Yeah, right. His job was to, as he puts it, taste them and think about the parameters of how this ancient beverage might have been made. It was a pretty tough job, but somebody had to do it, because why not? And ultimately, Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head returned the best product, no surprise there. It was so well received, in fact, that Calagione decided to release it to the public, and Midas Touch remains Dogfish Head's most awarded beer. When Dr. Pat discovered 9,000-year-old pottery with beer residue at a Neolithic village in central China, he decided to continue the collaboration with Dogfish Head. I just felt very comfortable working with Sam, he said, and he wanted to make it as genuine as possible, and that resulted in Chateau Jihu.
Chateau?
Jiahu.
Those words that I just got wrong, which contains muscat grapes, rice, orange blossom honey, and wild hawthorn fruit. So it doesn't look like there's anything new that's coming out, but it is really cool that there's somebody relatively close to us, and we don't
With
really
a
have
PhD.
with a PhD that is using that PhD.
Wielding the power of FTIS.
Right. Going for science with Dogfish Head. Now, there is news out of the Dogfish Head camp of a new collaboration that they are going to release the beginning of June. Now, I'm not going to spoil what it is because I am finally almost done with another block article for the website. It will be released, hopefully, by the time this episode is released, if not in conjunction with it. But
Awesome.
feel free to read this blog, and I really hope you do post about musical beers.
Musical beers.
Musical
I love
beers,
it.
yeah.
So this is another music collaboration with Dogfish Head. And I
Right.
can
Teaser.
say that it was to celebrate the end of their 18-month expansion. So
Right.
apparently the construction is finally coming
Right.
to an end.
And there will be in the article details of why they chose the musician that they did.
And I'm really excited about the ingredient in this beer. I'm just
I haven't
gonna say.
actually read the whole ingredients list. I just saw that it was there and figured, hey, this is perfect for the article that I've been working on for what seems like forever.
Awesome.
So,
And
Can't wait to read it.
dancing around other details of the article that we're not actually going to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. See, we're just enticing
so
people
mean.
to visit beerbusterspodcast.com and read what they hear about.
Speaking of reading, we had a guest blogger recently.
Yes, we
or
did.
a guest article writer. Wayne and I had an opportunity to meet one of our listeners that has been listening to us since the beginning. Joe Mansell, or Joe Man, as he goes by, from Richmond, Virginia, was traveling through our area going on vacation with his family. And he reached out to me and wanted to see if we could meet up. And we actually met with him on my birthday, which is
Yes,
kind of cool.
that's pretty
Cool way
awesome.
to spend my birthday. We met him at Victory Brewing Company. And what an awesome guy. First of
Yeah,
all,
he really
he
was.
and his family are so nice. We had such a great time, but he also gifted us with an entire case of Richmond area brews.
Yes.
And choosing one of them to sip. A few of them I think we're going to let sit for a while because
Yeah.
there's some gems in there that we want to let age and save them for a special time. But choosing one as our sipping beer for this episode was hard, but as soon as I said the name of this one, Wayne had the correct reaction, and we're like, okay, this is the one. So this is from Strange Ways Brewing, which is, of course, from Richmond, Virginia, and it's called the Wood Booger. Which I just love. I love that. But it is a...
That would be painful if you had boogers made of wood in your nose.
Well, and you see the logo.
I didn't see the
Speaking
logo.
of
actually. Oh,
green-
wow, it's like a bear trap.
Wait,
Yeah.
I haven't
It's
seen it
with,
yet.
like
Let me-
spikes and all.
Might
It's
I?
yeah. But I will say
that's
it is
painful.
not painful to drink.
No, it's delicious.
It's-
It is
yeah.
a Belgian-style brown ale, which you get the maltiness and the caramels and chocolate sweetness of a brown ale, but you get the fruitiness
Yeah.
of the Belgian yeast.
I'm getting
And
a really nice dark fruit.
yes, it is, and it is such a good beer. So, Joe,
really
thank
is,
you
yes.
for this and all of the others, and good choice, man. This is really
and
good.
Meeting with Joe is great. I mean, honestly, we're not celebrities really. We'd like to think we are, but it was really great to meet someone that we just met, by doing this. And he was a fan of ours, and he reached out to us, and he was excited to meet us, and it was great.
Yeah,
And we exchanged. We gave him some beers as well, and we gave him some swag. And since he wrote the article for us, we're mailing him a Beer Busters T-shirt. So, I mean, if there's any other listeners out
Yeah,
there,
you
he
want a
actually
T-shirt?
he suggested that we challenge our listeners that if anyone else will be traveling through our area and wants to hang out and have a beer or exchange beers, we would love that. We had a great time, and it was awesome meeting him and his family.
Yeah, and Joe, I would like to say that I apologize for not being able to make it, and Steph, I'm sorry I couldn't spend your birthday with you.
That's all right. Wayne made up for it. He was two cousins that day, right?
Actually, that day I was visiting a friend out towards Lancaster,
Very
and
cool.
I haven't seen him in a very long
So
time.
you weren't too far because we drove from Downingtown at Victory to Hershey because
Yeah.
we went to the brewery at Hershey, which is
Right.
where we first met
where,
Chris
our
Harvey.
guest
where
Chris.
you first
Where
met our guest.
where Wayne and I first met Chris Harvey
Yes.
at the event there.
The
so
homebrewer competition.
What a perfect segue to
I
our
know,
interview
right?
I was
with
just going
our
to say, what a great segue.
Yeah.
It really
awesome
is.
guest
Yeah.
here.
So yeah, now we do have with us Mr. Chris Harvey. Thank you for coming to the Beer Busters Podcast basement.
Thank you for having me.
And now it was the brewery at Hershey that basically turned you on to us, right? You know Ryan?
Yeah, I know Ryan just through home brewing and locally, me being outside Harrisburg, him being in Lancaster. He used to be, and it's still up, the website's still up, but he has a very extensive homebrew website that he maintained. He was a graphic designer before he was a brewer. So he knows a lot about HTML and whatnot. And so I would say at least my first 10 all-grain homebrews were based off of recipes that he created, and I would email him countless times to ask about, what ingredient to use for this, and, can you give me some tips on this? And yeah, he jokes around about how getting the job that he has as the head brewer at Hershey it was iron brewing, and it was one part homebrew, one part business plan, and one part tasting, and they picked a homebrewer out of all those people for him to be there. So
That's really, really
and then
cool.
I heard him on your podcast, and the rest is history.
All right. Podcast history. Now, I know you also want to talk about your homebrew club for where you are, right?
Yeah, we so I just had moved to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania from Baltimore. My wife is from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and I went to Elizabethtown, so it was local. We have a son, so it was time to move to the county out of the city. She turned to me one day and said, "I don't want to raise our son in downtown Baltimore City." I said,
Yeah.
all right, let's go.
understand that, yeah.
So, and I was a home brewer and wanted to kind of connect with the other local home brewers. And found the local homebrew club that was there that's run out of the local homebrew store. And I went to one of the meetings, and I just kind of felt lost. There were like 50 people there. Mead's getting passed around, wine's getting passed around. I think I tasted like 2 or 3 beers. People were bringing commercial beers. Like, everyone was in their own little like clique of like 5 or 6 people left, right? And I just kind of felt it was like that scene where you see the subways going by, and I'm just kind of standing there. So I didn't go back. Started brewing, got to know the guys that run the homebrew store, and Brad Moyer's the name of the guy who runs Scotts and Brothers out there. Hands down, the largest selection I've ever seen at a homebrew store, packed into this small area. Wow. And he said, "Hey, would you be interested in being a part of a new homebrew club that we're going to create?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "We just want to get 10 to 12 guys that have the same focus when it comes to homebrewing. Not to downplay what Rehab was doing, I just feel that it's more social than things are a hobby for them.
Right.
These are 10 guys where brewing is their passion. Outside of what they do and what they do at home, this it consumes them. And I know that feeling. I know spending countless hours on Homebrew Talk, tinkering with building things like my trash can kegerator,
which is
that
awesome.
thing is awesome. Yeah,
I can send you a picture of for you to see. But and it's just things you find on the internet, and you actually have to get to a point where you're just like, all right, I got to slow down. I need to actually brew some beer.
Yeah. Or eat.
Yeah. And as Steph can attest to, you go from stovetop brewing and move into all grain, which is a more controlled version of brewing, but it's also more delicate. And so every single guy in this homebrew club is all grain.
Okay.
Every guy, we have guys that are traditional BJCP only style brewing, and then you got guys like me who I would never ever win a BJCP competition because I'm always going to throw some juju, as Ryan called it. I always throw something in my beers because I want to be different.
Oh, that's cool. And that your homebrew club that you formed with them is Sons of Alchemy.
Sons of Alchemy, kind of a play on the TV show.
Sons of Alchemy.
Website. You can. There's a Facebook page. There's a website. Which I can give to you at a different time. I don't have that on me right now. But
we can post it on.
Yeah,
on the website.
I mean, we've already done hop teas and malt tastings and yeast comparisons in a single batch or 2-row. It's actually really intense, like to the point where my wife's like, "All right, you're allowed to go to every other meeting because it's like way too much of a commitment."
Well, you guys meet
You
other week,
well,
right?
we started out like twice a month.
Okay.
I think we kind of backed it down to like every 3 weeks.
Right.
But it's amazing to watch it grow. Like to watch just our last meeting, a guy came in with 6 bottles. He said, "All right, I've got we did a pear experiment last week where my buddy had a bunch of pears. So we decided to do right off the branch, middle of the ripeness, and then super ripe ciders. And like just all of a sudden we had this tasting in the middle of a homebrew club.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
And just to let you know that this last beer that we'll be tasting is from the homebrew club. So.
The secret beer.
The secret beer.
The website, by the way, is sonsofalchemy.org.
Not to be confused with the heavy metal British rock band Sons of Alchemy.
There is that. Oh, wow.
What?
I didn't know such a thing existed.
Yeah. There is.
It's very hard to find a unique name that's not
Yes,
taken.
yes.
Yeah.
I know you did mention, and I know you said it's changed now. It's like once every 3 weeks. But when you had originally sent us some bio information that originally you're meeting twice a month, one for learning and once for just kind of hang out and have fun and talk shop, which I thought was kind of a cool setup.
Yeah. We have one of the guys in the club is going commercial.
Wow. Okay, cool.
2-barrel system, small nano brewery. So we'll meet there a lot.
That'll be
pizza, beers, it's right outside the airport. So it's kind of centrally located for Harrisburg.
Right.
But we'll go to Trogs. We'll go to, but then we'll go to Scotts and Brothers for the other types of meetings. So we're all at somebody's house one time.
All right.
So we're all over the place.
Cool. Now you said it was what, like 10 to 12 guys?
But I mean, there's probably about 16 to 18 people on the email, but there's a consistent 10 to 12.
So are you guys like open to growing more and more? Do you want to try and
absolutely.
keep it sort of?
I don't know.
It's you don't want to
end
end
one of
up
those things.
in
We don't
that
want to end up in that
experience
same
inspired you to do it in
and
the
there's
first
nothing
place.
wrong with that. I mean, one of the people that won the Hershey Brewery competition is from that homebrew club. there are people in that homebrew club who make great beers.
Right.
We just all have kind of the same focus as to what we want to educate each other and push each other to be better homebrewers.
I could see some cool like battles coming up between your club and the other club, but not like we're gonna butt heads and it's gonna be like a biker gang
rap
kind of
battles,
thing.
like
But
8
no,
Mile.
Like the first thing that came to my mind was maybe like a brew off.
It's
for
been
charity.
talked about.
Like you guys versus them, try to raise money and get some food catered or something like that, and go from there. That'd be really cool.
I'd love to one day do a homebrew competition like festival, and close down a street or something like that in Lemoyne where the shop's located. And then you've got 10 homebrewers from us, 10 homebrewers from them. That's 20 homebrews. Come sample each.
Yep.
Get some of
Sounds
the
really
local
good.
people like Ryan and Trogs and Maybach and Al's to come and pour some of their beers. I've been to a competition like that in Texas, and it was by far the best competition I've ever been to. It was so much fun.
That's cool. Yeah, the event at the brewery at Hershey was pretty awesome.
Yeah, why don't you tell? I know that Wayne did an article on the site about it, but why don't you give us your perspective of the event?
It was a lot of fun.
I didn't win.
I didn't win.
Your beers were awesome, though.
Very good.
There's an asterisk next to my scorecard. I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I had the highest scoring first round beer in the whole competition.
Wow,
Oh, really?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
the Hefeweizen scored a 95 out of 100.
That, we tried. Me and
That
Steph and I tried that
Hefeweizen
there,
is
and that was
Did you-
awesome.
Did you
When they
bring that today?
I did bring that.
Awesome.
okay,
Yes.
good.
And when they
Yeah,
came,
you're gonna like it, Dan.
When they came to pick up my second round beer, they picked the pale ale on accident, and so the Hefeweizen never made it to the next round. But you know what? These are learning curves.
Yeah.
First prize was a brew day with Ryan, and I'm like, I can do that anytime I want.
Yeah, it's not-
So, just getting a score sheet that said 95 out of 100 was
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's pretty
Surprise
awesome.
enough for me,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
And well deserved.
Yeah,
Because it was a
very
great,
good.
great beer.
Yeah, there were some really awesome beers. I
Yeah.
really, I think, other than I've gone to some homebrew meetings with Steph, but other than those, I've never been to like a homebrew competition. All beer fests have always just been commercial that I've been to, and it's really cool to be able to sample several homebrews from different people, different places, different clubs, different styles. It's a different sort
And
of.
homebrewers are so passionate.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we don't get to serve our beer to strangers
Yeah.
all the time. It's not something we get to do. So to get an opportunity like that festival that you can have people that are even going to be judging your beers and just kind of get that feeling like you are a commercial brewer and, like you got
Yeah.
your big kid
So
pants on.
would you share recipes with somebody like, oh hey, I taste this versus this. What'd you guys do? And then like, oh yeah, we put that in, then we put some, that yeast in with that citrus flavor. Like, do you guys do that as homebrewers?
I totally do. all
It's
the
funny
time.
you say that. I definitely would. I emailed the guy who won the competition. He had the Farmhouse IPA.
Oh yeah, that was
And
pretty good.
he gave me your typical email back that you get from a brewery. Like, he listed like the 3 ingredients and the 3 hops and the yeast. Like,
And no
no instruction.
no ratios.
Yeah, no ratios.
no process.
But once you've been brewing long enough, you can kind
You
of
could
put
figure-
that together
yeah,
and figure it out.
yeah.
So
That was a good beer. That was actually, I think,
Yeah.
the first one we tried when we got there.
Yeah.
Steph and I.
he was right on the corner, and even all of us were like, "Wow,
Yeah.
there it is.
It's a
There's
great
the beer."
beer.
That was really good.
And I had the jalapeno
Oh,
beer.
of course.
I know that you mentioned it in the article. Oh, that was so good.
Yes.
I went back to that guy, I think,
It was
4
like
or 5
Hoppin',
times.
yeah.
I'm like,
Hoppin'
just fill it
jalapeno.
up.
I think his
It
name
was
was
so good.
Paul, I believe.
But his
Credit
beer
where it's
was...
due. But yeah.
was
Yeah,
so
we had
nice.
another one there. He had the cocoa stout.
Chanel, Coco Chanel.
Cocoa. It was a chocolate beer, yeah.
Yeah, and the jalapeno beer he had was very well made, but
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of super hot spicy beer.
It wasn't that hot.
Yeah,
It was more jalapeno.
Yeah, it had the nice
Yeah.
flavor of jalapeno.
It did. It was
and
very
a,
good.
And a hint of spice.
I
That's
want to
what
try that.
Yeah.
Can I go back in time? Can we like?
Well,
Well,
we have to tell
actually,
Ryan to do this event again, and we can go
They
back.
are doing it again.
Yay!
Are they?
cool.
Oh, that's cool.
They're doing a beer and bacon festival.
I'm in.
Dan's there.
I want to say, and
Dan's
Ryan
there.
can correct me if I'm wrong, July 27th, 28th, whatever that Sunday is, the last Sunday of July.
Oh, okay.
They're going to do the same thing all over again
I'm already gonna be out that way.
with bacon.
That's sweet.
and
Oh, that's
beer.
awesome.
That's sweet.
So-
Yeah.
So it's going to be homebrew beer and bacon.
Homebrew beer, bacon, and of course they'll sell their own there like they did this last
Yeah.
competition.
Nice.
It's an unofficial bachelor party that weekend for a friend of mine who's getting married in California. So we're going to be at the Hollywood Casino.
Okay.
There you go.
right
I'm
there.
going to get them to go with me. 'cause
That'd be a great place to go
that
too.
would.
That would be.
Especially because we all love, let's just say, protein like that. Oh.
Is it going to be a fundraising event again, like this one was? Or?
I don't know. Details aren't out yet, but he just told me to keep a heads up. I said, "Oh, no problem. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to rebrew my Hefeweizen,
Absolutely.
Good idea.
Definitely, that was really good.
and I'm only bringing one beer, so there's no confusion."
Yeah, so Ryan DeLutis, keep us posted.
Yeah.
Info
We
at
should-
beerbusterspodcast.com.
Also mentioned, Steph brought up fundraising, that the event that we did attend was to raise money for a Relay for Life team.
Yes.
Max
Yes.
Max Mixed Nuts.
Yes.
It's a mouthful.
Relay for Life team. Yeah, we should mention them.
Now, I know you said you were in Baltimore. Did you do any homebrewing down there?
Yeah, I started out I had your typical row home. Started out in the backyard. We started on the stovetop, obviously. Did some extract brewing out of Extreme Brewing by Sam Caljoun.
Great book.
Yeah, great book. I remember we did a blood orange Hefeweizen that turned out great. We did the traditional brown. I think like every homebrewer starts out with let's just do a brown ale and see how it goes, and we'll move on from there.
I still make that brown
Yeah.
ale, but I'm consistently trying to make it better.
Change it, and that's
I
how I
love
am with
brown
my
ales.
IPA. Like I make this one beer all the time, and I constantly am tinkering with it. But we did that beer. We did a saison, and then I remember we tried to do a double, and we're ready to bottle condition, and we have no priming sugar. What am I going to do? I run to Safeway. I get brown sugar. We still can't. It's been years, and we try to like open it up and drink it. And we're like, oh man, this is the worst beer ever. It's so sweet. We call it the sugar beer. Yeah. Or the time we tried to make a blueberry Hefeweizen, and we used too ripe not ripe enough blueberries, so all you got was the color. So it was a purple beer,
Right,
but
right.
it was
Didn't taste
very
like blueberry
at all.
no,
No
the blueberry taste was over.
Aw.
So.
Well, I'm very excited to taste what you have brought with us. There's a few articles of business we have to get to beforehand. First of which being Wayne. What do we have?
Well, it's of course that time we've all been waiting for with bated breath, no doubt. Now, we should mention right now, which we haven't yet, is that this episode is going to release right around the Beer Busters 1 year anniversary.
Yay!
It is our birthday time right now. We've been doing this for a whole year now. So, in the spirit of celebrating Beer Busters turning 1, I've actually dug up my introduction from the very first Happy Fun Time game we ever played on the podcast.
Oh, boy.
Which
Now,
was episode 2, correct?
it was episode 3.
Oh, it was
Because
3.
episode 2 was the first episode I was on,
That's
and
right.
then in the third I started doing the games. So I've added just a tiny bit to it to include our guest Chris in the introduction, and also because we're not playing the game that we played then, but for a little hint of nostalgia, a little trip down memory lane. We here at Beer Busters are dedicated to bringing you the best news and reviews of the finest brews, but it is also our mission to ensure that you, our burgeoning batch of Beer Buster besties out there in podcast landia, are thoroughly entertained in the process. So, in that spirit, it's time for me to attempt to stump Steph and subvert her sagacious sudsy wisdom, dumbfound Dan and derail his draft discernment, and confound Chris and his crafty credentials, also tripping up and tongue-tying myself with an unnecessary, unnatural, and egregious amount of alliteration. Let's play Beer Busters. Brew or false?
Oh, man.
You know what's really funny? That originally the game we played then was when I was more obsessed with alliteration than I am now. Was
Is
Beer
that possible?
Beer Busters Brain Bending Brew Trivia was the game that we played then, and the game that we are playing today is Brew or False. But when I put the Brew or False into the document here, it actually says let's play Beer Busters Brain Brew or False. This is a game we've played once before. It's a simple true or false game. So I'm just basically going to tell you a fact, a statement, or something, and you have to tell me whether it's true or false. Then we're going to start to my left.
Of course.
With Dan.
Why wouldn't you?
So tell me, is this true or not? And this should strike close to your heart. Is this true? Bacon sandwiches are scientifically proven to be an effective hangover cure. Is that true or is that false?
Is it specifically bacon sandwiches, or are we focusing on the bacon part or the sandwich part?
Bacon sandwiches are scientifically proven
They're
to be
so
effective
hard when he's so vague about it.
I know.
hangover
I'm
cure.
going true.
You're going true, says Dan. Chris, do you think that's true or false?
I'm going to go with false.
You're going to go with false. Steph, what are you going to go with?
I'm going to say false.
You're going to say false as well. Dan is absolutely correct.
All right. I was going to say experience.
Yes. He knows from experience.
And I'm sorry, not to. There's a restaurant right around the corner from our house. They're open just in the morning, and they have a sign out that says Philly's best hangover cure, and it's a picture of pancakes and bacon.
Nice. Well, pancakes would probably work as well because the thing is, food in general will help with a hangover because it kickstarts your metabolism, which allows your body to get down to the business of processing all the lingering nasties left over from a night of overindulgence. But British led research in 2009 found that bread and bacon make a particularly effective tag team hangover blasting superfoods. Bread contains a lot of carbohydrates, which helps, and bacon is high in proteins, which break down into amino acids, which are something that your body needs, so they induce all sorts of feel-goodery. Plus, while alcohol does not, in fact, kill brain cells, another fun fact, thankfully, it does deplete neurotransmitters, which are chemicals that the various departments of your brain need to communicate with each other, which essentially thinking juice. Bacon contains amines, which help to top up that brain fuel.
2 points to that. So are we positive that drinking does not kill off your brain cells? Because I've been using that as my excuse for years.
That's absolutely, it does not.
Okay, and 2, I'm pretty sure I saw a study once that says that bacon has the same effect on your brain as cocaine as far as the level of endorphins or the chemical reaction to it that you would get if you did cocaine.
It's I doubt that's actually true, but eating bacon would obviously stimulate the same pleasure centers of your brain that doing drugs would.
Right.
It's
I mean,
all,
not saying
all
that
the
it's
same.
not saying that bacon is cocaine or cocaine is as simple as bacon, but the chemical
Cocaine
reaction
certainly is not as
No.
delicious.
I think bacon has its own place in your brain.
Right.
For,
I
And
think so.
heart.
Yeah, it's the bacon lobe. the
I
bacon
find
lobe.
that green juice and bananas work just fine.
Bananas, yes, because of
the
potassium.
I also
yes.
coconut water too.
Green juice
Yeah.
is far too much of an ambiguous term for me to actually drink it.
It's so delicious.
It's like the ectoplasm,
Yeah.
ectoplasmic cooler or whatever it was back in the day.
that stuff was awful.
That stuff was awesome. Put a little dry ice in there at Halloween. Anyway, yes, bread and bacon are both good for hangovers, and together they're that much better with their powers combined. Moving along to Chris on the next one. Tell me, is this true or false? False. Is this true or is this false? And this is a oft-repeated mantra. Beer before liquor, never sicker. Liquor before beer in the clear. Is that true or is that false?
I'm going to go with false.
You're going to go with that is false. Steph, what do you
Wait,
think?
say it again?
Beer before liquor, never sicker.
Yeah,
You've
no, it's
heard it.
true.
You've
I've
heard
lived
it a million
it. It's
times.
true.
You've heard it a million times.
It's
Steph
true.
says it's true. Dan, do you
Do
think
not
it's true
do
or false?
Jaeger shots after drinking beer.
This has been recently debunked for me. I'm going false.
You're going false as well. Okay, well, strictly speaking, it is in fact false.
Boo.
Strictly
I disagree.
speaking, it is in fact false because
I veto that.
the alcohol in beer is exactly the same as that in wine or whiskey. What matters is how much alcohol you consume. However, there's a caveat. Now, if you could tell me what might make it sort of true, maybe I'll give you a point.
What might make it sort of true?
Right, because the alcohol in liquor is no different than the alcohol in beer. It doesn't matter which one you're drinking. It matters how much alcohol you consume.
Well, wines and liquors obviously have much higher
Right.
alcohol content.
Right.
And I always find that when you're mixing your liquors too,
Right.
that seems to make me sick. Like if I stick and I just have beer,
Right.
I'm okay.
Right.
I'm
But
not giving
it's-
you the scientific answer you're looking
Well,
for. though.
because chemically speaking, it doesn't matter. But behaviorally, it does, because there are certain behavioral differences between sipping a pint and downing a shot. Obviously, if a 12-ounce beer has the same amount of alcohol as a 1.5-ounce shot, you're going to spend a lot more time consuming the beer
But what about
than
wine?
throwing back a quick dose of Jaeger. Well, wine is sort of in between somewhere. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're going to drink a beer much slower than you're going to drink a shot, even if they both contain the same amount of alcohol.
So are you giving me a point or not?
I giving you half a point. Giving you half a point.
And Dan gets a whole point?
Well, yeah, because he said the answer. No. Yes, Dan and
Yeah.
Chris both give. You're confusing me.
Wait, did you say true or false?
He said
I said
false.
false.
Chris said false.
Oh,
They
so
both
you
get
think-
points.
I think they created that saying for underage college drinkers.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, like I said, if you're drinking a beer, you're going to spend a lot more time on it, unless, of
Alright.
course, you are one of those mug chugging, beer bonging, keg standing frat boy types. In which case, you probably deserve the eye-bleeding hangover that's inevitable regardless of how you order your drinks.
On to the next one.
But if you spend the first half of your evening sipping on brews and then switch to the hard stuff, you're already a little buzzed and you're more inclined to overindulge. Plus, now you're getting more punch for pound from your cocktails. Whereas if you start with some shots or mixers and move to suds, your rate of alcohol intake will likely fall off, giving your body and your poor liver some breathing room to handle the onslaught.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. All right. If looks could kill. Steph is boring holes in me with her eyes. And you're up next on this one.
Yay.
Tell me, is this true or false? Coffee will sober you up.
True.
Steph says that's true. Dan, what do you think?
I want to say true as well.
You're going to say
So I'm
true
gonna
as
say
well?
true, yeah.
All right, Chris, what do you think?
I have to go false.
He's going to buck the trend and go
Yeah.
false, and he is correct.
Yeah, I thought so.
Not in my life.
He, see,
As a former bartender, I would tell people all the time, doesn't matter how much you eat, how much water bombs you do or
Exactly.
consume, it's time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Coffee.
does the caffeine
Time.
take too
Just-
long?
No,
Well,
it
it just
has
takes
nothing
your
to do
body time to process
Yeah.
alcohol. It's all
Because-
about time.
Caffeine in coffee is a stimulant, but all that means is that it keeps you awake. It doesn't make your head any clearer. It doesn't make you any more sober. It just keeps you from falling asleep, prolonging the time that you spend thinking you've got the moves like Jagger, when in fact you're flailing around like an epileptic whirlwind rather than passing out and avoiding further embarrassment. The only way to sober up, as Chris mentioned, is to let your body naturally process the liquor. Breathing helps. Which is how your body dispels booze and stays alive, and also is why breathalyzers work. Urinating helps to a point, though. But if you've ever been out drinking and broken the seal early on, you've probably noticed that your urine becomes clearer and clearer each time you hit the head, and that's because at that point you're really just pissing water. Alcohol is a diuretic, meaning it stimulates an overproduction of urine by flushing out otherwise perfectly good water, and that's also why it dehydrates you. Vomiting can help too. But not only by expelling alcohol that's in your stomach and hasn't yet made it to your bloodstream and onto your brain parts, so it will prevent you from getting more drunk, but it won't make you any less drunk. And coffee won't do anything but keep you awake.
What about dry active yeast?
We have yet to experiment on that, but that's another thing that's not going to help after the fact. Because once you're drunk, the alcohol's already gone through your blood and
Well,
in
yeah,
your
and
brain.
that's why he consumes
So at that
it
point,
before.
right, exactly.
Moving on.
Exactly. Moving on.
I do not like this game.
Steph does not like this game. This is our fourth and final question, and we're going to round it out with Dan again. And this one here is alcohol makes you warmer. Is that true or false?
False.
Dan says that is false. Chris, what do you think?
True.
He's going to say true, and Steph?
Everything I've thought has been wrong. I want to say true because when I drink a lot, I seem to warm up, but I'm going to say false
You're gonna say
because I've been wrong.
False, and you are absolutely correct. See, that's the whole point.
Yay.
We're busting myths.
I learned that one from Family Guy.
See,
So this isn't Brew or False. This is Beer Busters, actually.
exactly. We're going to say, as beer busters, we're taking
We're busting it.
taking a hand from some other busters you may have heard of. No. Drinking alcohol makes you feel warmer because it causes your blood vessels to dilate, which means more blood moves to the surface of your skin and to your extremities. It's kind of like blushing. But this actually lowers your core body temperature in two ways. One, the obvious one, is that there's less blood deep in your insides, meaning the important keeping you alive bits are cooling down. Secondly, when that blood that's been hanging out on the edge returns to your inner organs, it has actually itself lowered in temperature from being close to the air. This effect can actually increase the risk of hypothermia and can be fatal, especially if you're boozing it up in particularly cold environments. So, alcohol makes you feel warmer, but it actually makes your inner core temperature lower. So, that is our final question. And if Steph doesn't want to question the pillars of science anymore...
Those are really hard, like, yes or no answers, though, because there's a lot of discussion that has to go behind that.
Well, yeah. But that's
So the
thing.
score is I had 1.5, Chris had 2, and Dan had 3. He's the winner. Yippee, yippee. Let's move on.
You're absolutely
Yay,
right.
I
You're
won
absolutely right,
again.
Miss Scorekeeper. Yes, Dan takes it away with 3 points. Chris coming in second with 2. Steph with 1 point and 1/2 pity point coming in last. I have a couple of fun facts, though, that I kept in case we needed a tiebreaker, which obviously we don't. Did you know that women are actually more prone to hangovers than men?
Really?
Yes, this is true because humans are roughly 80% water, but it varies from person to person and varies between the sexes. Women have more body fat because they're soft and squishy, which holds less water, while men have more muscles because they're hard and chiseled, which is mostly water. Since alcohol, as we learned, causes the body to shed water, women on average have a lower stockpile to begin with and so will become dehydrated more readily, and dehydration, of course, is a major contributor to hangover symptoms. And finally, did you know that there's a crater on the moon named Beer?
I feel like I did know that.
There's a crater on the moon named Beer. I have no idea who named it, when, or why, but there are also craters named Hell, Hendrix, and Picard. You will note that there is no crater named Kirk.
I have a problem with that.
I knew you would. That's why I said it.
I'm angry now.
Know your beers.
And what better way to celebrate my anger with peppers?
That's right. So to celebrate our 1-year anniversary, why not come full circle and talk about the thing that everybody knows I love dearly, and that is chili beers. I love brewing them, I love drinking them, and the spicier the better. When I found out that Chris was bringing a pepper beer, I knew he had to be a guest on our show, and it is delicious, though not quite as spicy as he was hoping, but that's okay. We can talk about that later. But we have to remember a chili beer has to be a beer first. The chili is secondary. As hard as that is for me to admit, the beer should be sound, solid, balanced, and worth brewing. And it's important to know that even if you love hot food, a chili beer will probably be hotter than you think. And too hot for most people, well, except me. So don't plan on everyone loving the brew. Oh yeah, and don't forget to wash your hands with soap after handling the peppers. I know that from
certainly before going to the bathroom.
So capsicum is the stuff in chilies that causes heat, and it can burn your hands, your eyes, your nose. And some peppers are so dangerous that you should actually wear disposable rubber gloves while cutting them.
I was actually looking over these notes earlier, and I noticed you said capsicum and I capsaicin, as in your capsaicin carnival. Is there a difference there, or is it just two names for the same thing?
Well, Wayne, capsaicin is the active component in chili peppers, and they belong to the genus Capsicum.
Oh, okay.
Got it?
Nice. So which one's Latin?
Probably both of them. I don't know. So what kind of peppers should you use? The best peppers to use are the little ones, green, fresh peppers that are not usually as hot as the dry red ones and may have a little more sweetness to balance the heat. I personally prefer to use fresh peppers instead of dry peppers myself, but that's because I prefer the flavor of them. When using fresh peppers, you can also remove the seeds if you don't want too much heat. But why on earth would you do that?
Because you're sane.
I also grow my own peppers. I grow everything from jalapenos to habaneros, serranos to even ghost chilies, and perhaps this year the scorpion pepper. We will see. And I like experimenting with different combinations of the peppers and the amounts of peppers as well. It's also important for me to know where my peppers are coming from. Peppers can be added to the kettle, to the fermenter, even to the bottle, and adding chilies to the bottle will increase the chili flavor as the beer ages. The alcohol in the beer will leach out, and the hot and the fruity, spicy pepper flavors will come out over time, but it won't get overly harsh. This will also give you a fair amount of hot, peppery aroma, like pepper hopping instead of dry hopping.
Pepper hopping. Or dry peppering.
There you go. I prefer to add my chilies to the wort during the last 5 minutes of the boil, and I continue to steep them in the wort for about 15 minutes after shutting off the heat. And this allows me to get the spicy flavor into the beer and the fresh pepper flavor and aroma that I enjoy. It's almost like a late boil flavor hop addition. You can also put the chilies into the primary fermenter as you pitch the yeast and leave them there until you rack into the secondary. This will give you good heat, good pepper as fruit flavor, and enough chili aroma to balance the beer aromas. Another possibility is to add the chilies to the mash. I've never tried that myself, but it's something to consider. My favorite chili beers that I've brewed include my jalapeno saison, the habanero IPA Capsaicin Carnival, my habanero Rausch beer, and my ghost chili ale. For some great chili beer homebrew recipes, check out byo.com. They have some really good ones on there. And some of my favorite commercial examples are Esky's Brew Pub's chili beer from New Mexico, New Belgium's Coco Mole Stout from their Lips of Faith series. I love that one. Twisted Pine's Ghostface Killa, Stone Brewing Company's Crime and Punishment with most you guys love. And of course, my favorite beer on the face of the earth, Ballast Point's Habanero Sculpin.
Crime and Punishment were good, but they were strong.
Oh, they were so good.
It felt like a crime
so
and it felt like punishment.
And it was wonderful. Yeah. So I couldn't be the only one bringing homebrews to the table tonight, especially if I'm talking about chili beers. So, and I will not feel bad if you don't finish them. I get it. It's not for everyone.
Oh, I'll finish them.
But the first one is the habanero Rausch beer. That's Stoke the Coals. And thank you, Wayne, for designing the label for that beer. He just revamped it with an awesome new font. And I now, for any of my friends that check in my beers on Untappd, I can now add Wayne's labels to Untappd. So that's really cool if you want to check it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the second beer is my Ghost Chili beer, but I brewed it a year ago. So I did pop a bottle of this last night with a good friend of mine, Greg, and I wanted to see, I've been holding on to a couple bottles to see if the pepper would stay. So let's see what you guys think of a year later, how the pepper was.
I just want to say, the Stoke the Coals, this was the batch that you brewed fairly recently.
I brewed this on New Year's Day.
Okay, because I had this next to the one that you had brewed like a year prior or so.
Yeah, I added more peppers to this one.
Well, I actually liked the older batch because I'm a pussy. Because of spicy beers. But I really liked the way that it had mellowed out.
Yeah,
And
this
I felt
is
that
mellowing
all the
out
flavors,
nicely.
Yeah, and this has this. I was going to say this is starting to get there. So this is a cool beer because when it's young, it appeals to crazy people like you who like the really spicy beer, but if you let it age, it becomes it mellows out
does mellow.
and it has a whole new character to it that I really like.
Yeah, it smells a lot spicier than it tastes. And I was kind of put off by the smell, to be honest, about how spicy it was, but it's
Really, I get the bacon when I smell it. I get the smoke. I get the Rausch beer from the aroma.
I get the peppers.
I get, like a bit of a bacony, smoked pork,
Smoky.
mixed with the like jalapeno type flavor.
I got the peppers right away, but it's got a very nice kick to it.
It does, and it has started to mellow, which I like.
And since I like to brew with fresh peppers, because these are not smoked peppers, these are fresh habaneros, but it gives you the illusion of a smoked pepper, sort of, using the smoked malts.
Right, yeah.
And I like how that... I don't know that I would like it with smoked chilies. I think for me it would be too much smoke. But I like the freshness and the heat that it brings.
Would that take out some of the heat using smoked chilies, do you think?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. You leave the seeds in. How many peppers do you use? What kind of peppers do you use? It's all relative. But that's what's great about homebrewing is you can experiment and play with the different types of peppers. And do I like dried better than fresh? Do I like smoked ones better? Do I like them with the seeds? How many? And Chris and I were talking before the show. Most people say add 1 pepper per gallon of beer. And if you want it spicier, then leave the seeds in. If you don't, take them out, and you pretty much just get the pepper flavor. Now, I usually push it to more like 2 per gallon, but I like it spicier. Now, when I use a ghost chili, I add 1 ghost chili to the entire batch, and then I also throw in other chilies.
You're talking a 5-gallon batch.
A 5-gallon batch, yeah. In this 5-gallon, I used 1 ghost chili. I used a handful of. I used some habaneros and serranos and a couple jalapenos, habaneros. I don't know what I mentioned already, but because I don't
Peppers.
necessarily love the flavor of ghost chilies too much. I love the flavor of habaneros. They're my favorite peppers. But you want the heat of the ghost chili.
Right.
That's why you put it in there, and so you can say you.
I've never eaten a ghost chili because again I'm a pussy.
I've had it.
Is there a flavor? I mean, isn't it just
It's
scalding
just-
hot?
There
the
is.
flavor is
No, there
pain.
is.
Yeah.
That is the flavor.
Well,
Pain.
yeah. I mean,
But it's definitely mellowed. I mean, it's great.
Yeah,
I just
think
want to
it's
say
nice.
I haven't tried it yet, but it's
mellowed. It's
floaty
more mellow.
bits.
Floaty bits, yeah.
It's got
It's
floaty
very-
bits.
I
Well,
like
I
when
got the bottom of the
I like
bottle,
when
too.
a chili beer hits you in the front and not just on the back of your
Yeah.
throat. Because the ones that you have that hit you in the back of the throat, you just think, "Am I getting sick, or is this a chili beer?" I feel like I'm getting
I
strep
like that.
throat.
Right. And this does have, I think, the ghost chili one has a creeping burn that comes from
Yes.
your tongue and not your throat.
Yes.
Right.
Which is it's interesting.
And a bit of lingerness. I like the linger.
I still feel it on the back of my throat.
Yeah. But I think that the Stoke the Coals for me the heat hit the throat more than the tongue, but this
Yeah.
is coming up in my tongue a little more.
This one actually reminds me of there's a Thai food place not too far from my house that I ordered this really good chicken from, and it's spicy and it's got like pineapple in it and a couple other citrusy flavors. That's exactly what this reminds me of, and I
Awesome.
love it.
Well, I used to saison yeast with this because I like the fruitiness that it does bring to the... And
Yeah.
using the fresh peppers, you're going to get a little
Yeah.
more of the fruitiness. But
Really, really good.
yeah, considering it's a year old, it's still...
It
still
has
a
maintained
kick.
its kick, definitely.
It was a lot hotter
I-
last year, but...
I'm gonna say I don't know if I could have handled it when it was fresh.
Well, and it's not for everyone.
No, it's not. But I actually
You
these are
brew
both
what you like.
like we talked about the jalapeno beer that you had at when we were at the Homebrew Fest. Is that these are really well made, I think, and they're not bad. I just am not a fan of excessive heat, so I can sip on this and appreciate it a little bit, but I'm going to mellow out, and I'm actually going to hold off on them because I don't want to.
Yeah, we don't want to
wreck your palate.
I don't want to burn out my palate before
we want to be
try.
able to taste Chris's beers.
exactly.
Speaking of,
But on that note,
Beer me! Beer me! Beer me! Beer me!
all right, the moment we've all been waiting for.
yay!
All right, so as we happen to get these open, what are we starting off with?
Okay, so this is the closest thing that I got to a BJCP beer. This is my Trappist Triple. I was making a Med Elf clone, and I decided at the very last minute to use dry yeast, so I had this extra package of Trappist yeast sitting in my fridge, and I'm like, what am I going to do with it? I need to build a beer around the yeast. First time I've ever done that. And I built a Trappist Triple. BYO actually has a great article on Trappist beer and what a Trappist beer is and how there's only 8 breweries out there that are Trappist. So I'm probably cheating by calling it Trappist because I am not a Belgian monk. But it's a very traditional West Mill.
I was going to say, what makes it not BJCP?
No,
BJCP is very, you have to brew in style.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the closest I've ever come to actually brewing in style.
Okay.
This is a Belgian triple.
Okay.
Made traditional. There's no extra juju.
Right. Right.
As Ryan calls it. It's literally just the grains, some 2 pounds of Belgian candy sugar, a Trappist yeast, very light on the hops. It's very low IBU. Roughly in that 7% range.
Right. But there's no like hidden secret ingredient here that sort of kicks it out of the traditional.
No.
Okay.
No.
The yeast does all the magic in this beer. It's all
Yeah.
about the yeast.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Oh wow.
Oh,
It is
That's really
it is CO2 out of the keg. It is not bottle conditioned.
it's oh man, it's flavorful but light enough that it's refreshing and like it's not overpower. Oh my god, this is good.
It's very good.
It's
And
really good.
I have to say, after the spicy beers, this actually sort of puts out the fire very nicely.
Oh.
It's like the ranch
it lives
dressing
up
with
to
your
it.
jalapeno
Yeah.
pepper.
This will become a house beer. Like I'll make this and keep it on tap, and when I run out, I'll make it again.
I love the
really good.
finish too. It's very clean, and you want another sip.
It's
and
crisp.
It doesn't linger.
Just like the guys from Evil Genius said, by adding that 2 pounds of Belgian candy sugar, I
Right.
get the alcohol to where I want it to be, and because it's a triple, it finishes really dry.
Right, it does.
Which is exactly what I was going for.
And it does, and it's clean and crisp, and I think the carbonation with the forced carb, it's very fine, and I like it.
it's very fine. That's a good adjective for this beer.
All my beers now are. It's like I collaborate with myself. I don't.
Who better to collaborate with?
I no longer
Not in public, right?
No, not in public. I no longer just take a recipe and make somebody else's recipe. I take a little bit from this recipe, take a little bit from that recipe, and kind of come up with what I'm looking for. So this isn't a direct Belgian West Mill clone, but takes things from there. And moving on, when you'll see with some of my next beers, I have the IPA, which is made with heady topper yeast, but it's based on a hop schedule for Pliny the Elder. So,
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
But then I took out all the, a third of the hops because it was just way too. It was like $30 in hops.
Yeah, it would be a lot.
Is that the one we're going to taste next?
Sure, I can segue like that. So this is another one of those beers where I am constantly tinkering with it, fermenting at different temperatures, doing different hop additions.
What hops did you use in this?
Simcoe and Citra. Citra is my go-to hop. I'll use Citra in the actual making of the beer and dry hopping. Sometimes I'll dry hop just with Citra. Sometimes I'll do Citra and Amarillo. Giga Yeast is a company now making these yeast liquid packets. It's like a envelope of yeast, and you don't have to do a starter. It's got enough in there. It's 2 billion yeast count or something like that. It's expensive. It's about twice as much as a White Labs vial. But just set it and forget it.
Right.
Just pour it right in and you're done.
Nice.
Yeah, because usually when you brew a bigger beer like this,
You need to do
a smack
starter.
pack or a vial is just
Right.
not going to be enough.
Right.
Ooh. Ooh, it's got a nice Citra, grapefruit, mango.
Yeah.
Yeah.
aroma.
Oh, so one of the things I also do is I secondary on Jack LaLanne juiced mangoes. I take mangoes, I juice them in a juicer that I was given by my mom some Christmas long ago. It's only used for brewing purposes now.
You get that. You get the mango right
You
at
do.
the end.
I was going to say
It's
the
so nice.
the aroma when you first approach it, it's dank. It's that Simcoe dankness.
The lovely
That's
dankness.
nice. The lovely dankness that I love. But then after a couple more sniffs, then the fruit really starts to come out, and when you taste it, it's got the hop punch of a good IPA, but the fruit is right at the same level as the hops.
If somebody were to
The
ask
bitter
me like
and the citrus.
what my favorite hop is, it's Citra. It just says it's
Yeah.
it's a great way to hide super hoppiness.
And this is just the balance between the fruit and the citrus and the bitterness and the hops. It's great.
Yeah.
It'd be great with a jalapeno too in. Just
throw it
think,
in.
Just
nice,
did, was
dank
it Flying Dog
hoppiness
who
and-
did the habanero mango IPA? Yeah, it was Flying Dog.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Wow.
I know that Alaskan just did a jalapeno IPA, and there's a bottle waiting for me in New Mexico when I go visit next time. But I was told the flavor is great, but it's not spicy. So, but that's all right.
Take your
If the
Randall.
flavor's good enough.
Take your Randall with you.
Yeah, take the Randall.
Both of these beers so far have been fantastic.
Thank you. As a homebrewer, it's amazing to just watch your own progression. And homebrewing beer is like eating pizza. Even drunk at 2 a.m., 7-Eleven pizza tastes good. So homebrew beer, but you're your own worst critic. So
Right. Yep.
I'm very happy with some of the things I've been pushing out. And Stephanie can attest to the fact that you have a method, and then I'm gonna increase my knowledge on this part of the method, and perfect example is coming out of the mash tun. I am now slowly letting the wort out into the kettle because I was having a lot of problems with ABV. So now I'm getting as much as I can just by being patient.
Right.
But I tend to be a little bit of a mad scientist. My wife kind of gets mad because my garage is all over the place.
I think that the mad scientist brewing is the best kind of brewing, at least from the results end. Those are the beers I like to drink.
I remember this IPA was brewed when it was, I think, 19 degrees out, and my hose line was freezing. My propane had to be sat in a vial of hot liquid water because the propane was getting cold. It was crazy.
Well worth the effort.
Yeah, I would agree.
What's next?
So this is my perfect example of something that I feel like I missed the mark on, but it still tastes okay. It's that pineapple pale ale.
Oh, the pineapple habanero. Pale Ale.
Habanero pale ale. I went against Steph's advice, and I'll never do that again. I did 5 de-seeded habaneros.
Always listen to Steph.
You de-seeded them too.
Yeah.
Always listen to Steph unless we're playing Happy Fun Time.
Right.
So you'll get the hop. You'll get what a pale ale is, which is like the little brother of IPAs.
Right.
You'll get the pineapple. You'll get a little bit of heat. But I think I still have heat in my throat from Steph.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mixed the two together, and you might have like the perfect amount of heat.
I may actually try that. Well, like I said, with my not particular love of extreme spiciness, I think this is very good. I think it doesn't have the heat that you would expect seeing habanero in the name, but I still think it's a great beer.
And you still get the pepper flavor. It's subtle.
Yeah, you get the flavor.
But it's nice. But the pineapple is
And
subtle too.
If you drank a whole pint of it, you would get a little bit of heat of it. But
Which is
I was also very scared going into a homebrew competition that I didn't want to be palate wrecker. I didn't want somebody to come drink some of my beer and be like, great, I can't try anything else.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
I get kind of like Wayne said, the pineapple out of this, but the spice is there, but it's kind of, I guess, mellowed out would be the best way to put it. Yeah, it's muted a little bit. It's there, but it's not overpowering, except for the fact that, like you had said, Chris, we had Steph's earlier.
Nowhere near the same.
No, but this would be a great beer for someone who is like, I don't like spice, I don't like heat. If it's chilies in it, forget about it.
Just give this one a shot.
You can have some of the pepper flavor, and you don't have to worry about the spice.
I kept saying to people at the competition, I'm like, I promise, it's not too spicy. I promise you can drink it.
I think that's why I like it, is because, like you said, the flavor of the pepper is in there without the intense kick of heat. And I think if you sort of sell it to someone that way,
right?
And say, it's got the pepper flavor, but you're not going to get the crazy, my mouth is on fire.
Yep.
So this is one that I would definitely want to experiment with again. Get it a little hotter. if you drink a beer like Duclaw's Coco Fuego, like that's the perfect amount of heat for me. It's just enough where you feel it on the front of your mouth, but you don't feel it 5 minutes later.
Right.
It's gone.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not the type where I've had some, I can't even tell you what the names were, but where I don't feel anything until I drank the back of my throat was hot. I think Stillwater did one that was like that.
I like the one that my eyes are watering as soon as I drink it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What, like Crime and
I'm
Punishment?
I'm exactly like you, Andy.
Yeah. Well, the thing with those beers, though, is that for me, and maybe it's just because I don't drink or eat a lot of really spicy things, is that it's so intense. The heat is so intense that I couldn't tell the difference between the two. Like, they are different. Like, they're different.
They're very different, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, for me, it's just blah, fire.
It's just heat.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe
I get it. It's not for everyone.
Maybe if I
It's
built
not.
up some sort of spice calluses.
I didn't. You know what? I didn't always like spicy
Yeah.
things.
I imagine it's something you could sort of.
I think I inherited it from our grandfather because
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
puts
Well,
jalapenos
you know, the thing is,
on
though-
everything, and then I started putting jalapenos on everything, and I'm like, oh, I like this.
really like horseradish.
Oh, no.
That's a different
And
kind
It's
of
a
heat.
different kind of heat.
It is.
That heat goes this way.
Exactly, and
I
I've had,
love it.
I've had exactly. See, we're
Love
on
it.
the same page.
I can't
I've
breathe.
Had,
Have some horseradish.
I've had some crazy hot horseradish and love it, but chili pepper
It's
heat,
different.
not so into it. Yeah.
If I can make a beer where my nostrils flare up, I'll be in heaven.
Oh.
Do it. That would be awesome.
I don't know if you. I don't know if it'll transfer. I just don't know if
Well,
wasabi
we'll
or
try.
horseradish. But that's
Well,
why you homebrew.
I'd be willing to try it, but...
Yeah.
Wasabi.
Oh.
Wasabi.
Wasabi.
Connection back to our new segment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So this is the Hefeweizen. This
This is the one.
I had a.
You had me at the banana aroma.
Yeah, the
I love
aroma
this.
is awesome.
I don't like my Hefeweizens too estery or yeasty, so I try to brew them in like that
Oh,
68, 69, 70 degree range. Once you get into that 72, 74 degree range, you start to get the real yeasty taste to it. But I'm really nervous I won't be able to replicate this.
It's like banana
Yeah. I
starburst.
could.
It's so good. The
There's,
aroma is amazing.
There's orange peel, sweet orange peel, lemon peel, chamomile tea, and coriander, which I,
think
tend to put in all my
The
Hefeweizens.
tea, like there is a certain something that I couldn't put my finger on.
Calming?
Like in the back
A
of
calming
yeah,
feel?
like in the back of the taste. There is, and I don't know if it's calming. I was
well,
gonna say
chamomile.
herbal.
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 That would be appropriate.
Yes.
It's so good.
And I think
Thank
that when,
you.
and I was thinking that as you were saying what was in it, and as soon as you said the tea, I was like, that's probably what it is. Yeah. And you called this Lady of the Lake, I believe?
Yeah, Gray
Or
Lady.
is that a transient
it's-
name?
I'm not very creative, so I tried
Well,
to.
not with naming, but your beers
Well,
are
I decided
awesome.
that my beers are going to be based off of movies, and so
there you go.
you've got
I like that.
Pineapple Pale Express or something like that.
All
I forget
right.
what I named it. The IPA is Mad Monkey Mango IPA, which had a picture of the Outbreak Monkey on it. So
Mad
this is
Monkey IPA.
Mad Monkey Mango Island Pacific Ale was the first name we came up with.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's just easy that way.
And what is this one? The Hefeweizen? What's your name for this?
Lady of the Lake, kind of like a ode to King Arthur.
Yeah, with
I
this,
had a
that's
picture
where
of
the
Excalibur.
Excalibur comes from.
Oh,
Like,
I remember
See,
the picture
With
now.
my
Because-
brain, all I can equate that to is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Do you have a name for the triple? You can't. It would not be beach.
I don't know.
It would not fit the
It was
guidelines.
one of that was a house beer, so I didn't really have to do anything with it. My Imperial Pumpkin that I do every year is Army of Darkness Imperial Pumpkin.
nice. That's
And I had a buddy
love it.
who's a graphic designer who did the label, and Ash came out to be a little bit more Fabio than I liked. His shirt was ripped open. And
Ash is very Fabio.
Yeah, so
Come on now.
I still use that label though for every competition. I'll always do that Baltimore competition at little events because it's another one of those competitions where you're serving to the public, which is the best kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
And you won that competition
I
with
did.
that
With the
pumpkin
Imperial
beer.
Pumpkin. That's
Yes,
right.
I
Yeah.
won.
Well, you
this
have to
past
come
year.
next time you brew it. You will have to come back on the show.
Yes.
because
I would
we
like to try
have
that.
an Ash bobblehead.
Oh yeah.
So we can
Great.
take a picture of the beer with the Ash bobblehead.
Yeah.
That would be. It could be our next Halloween
I
episode.
was just going to say, when we get around to the fall and we do another pumpkin beer
Absolutely.
episode.
Did you end up going to the musical?
I've been to the musical
that's
many
great.
times.
Okay.
And
Oh,
we
wait.
Oh, there
Rich
it
has
is.
brought the bobblehead.
There's Ash,
That's awesome.
and we
Yeah,
sat
very-
in the splatter zone.
That's right. I knew you told me about the splatter zone, but I forgot you sat there.
Wow.
Ash needs to go on Instagram.
Instagram's on my phone, but I haven't opened the app in like 6 months.
That's a shame. I love
Except
Instagram.
to look at Beer Busters stuff.
Well,
of
you
course.
should. I post so much stuff on there. I figure
Hey, by the way,
people on Facebook don't want to see all my pictures, but Instagram, it's all about pictures.
fair enough. The brand new forthcoming beerbusterspodcast.com website will have an Instagram feed in the sidebar right there where you can see
really
our
cool.
8 most recent posts to Instagram right
Then
there.
you better go to our website every day.
Every day. Dude, I am just building the website now, and I still look at it and think, oh, look, Steph posted like 20ty new things, and there they are.
So, is it time for
It is
the
time.
Mystery
mystery
I'm
beer?
savoring this last one. But
So first, before you tell
Okay.
us about the beer, tell us about the cap.
So, like any home brewer, you kind of want to brand yourself. Not to the point where you're going to actually go out and sell because you can't sell homebrew. But my mantra, the way I brew, I try to keep it simple. I use simple ingredients. I don't use extract anytime I can. So if I were to make a peanut butter beer, I would try to use real peanuts or real peanut butter. Right. When I do the mango IPA, I use real mangoes. I don't use a mango extract. When I do Ryan's watermelon Hefeweizen, I will drive to Delaware to get a specific type of watermelon called a Candy Baby, which is this dark purple hue watermelon. So I don't have to add anything to it. It's just
perfect the way it is.
Just the way it is. So it just hit me. It's probably the most creative thing I've ever done is come up with Primitive Brewing Company. So that's kind of how I labeled myself before I got into a homebrew club. I have a work shirt with it on, and it's just a picture of the one of the Hear No Evil, See No Evil, Speak No Evil monkeys.
Right.
Yep, on the label, and one of the guys said, "Hey, you can get that printed on a label," the only problem
cool.
is, like I told you guys before we started, is you cannot write on the top of your logo to say what it is. So normally I would have a label. This beer is the perfect example of why we started our own homebrew club. This is a Russian Imperial Stout.
Oh boy!
It is made up
Those
of.
are the words I was hoping to hear.
It is made up of 11 Russian Imperial Stouts. This is a it's a barrel project.
What?
Look at how
no.
dark that is. Oh, my God.
Now, it looks like it did carbonate okay because we pulled it from the barrel. It's about... So let me go back. It's 11 of us, and some people did double batches, and some people did 10-gallon batches, so that we would get to 55 gallons. You had to stay within style. You had to brew something between 7 and 12%. You had to use an American or British yeast. Mm-hmm. No additives, no chocolate, no cocoa, no coffee. Could do that later if you want, like after we get done.
Right.
2 of the guys drove all the way out to Victory, picked up one of their extra barrels, a whiskey barrel that they had used.
I was going to ask, what kind of barrel?
They did the whole thing where they sulfured it and got it all nice and clean, but you still get some whiskey out of it.
Right.
So it's about 3 months in. We're gonna take it out in August. We're going to, I guess, probably bottle condition every single one of them. This is bottle condition. I used. They pulled a bottle off for me, capped it, gave it to me. I added 2 of the carbonation drops and a little bit of slurry of yeast. I got really nervous, so I put a towel on top of it, and I duct taped the towel around it. I didn't want a bottle rocket in my office because I had no idea, what was going to happen, what the temperature was. I had no control over this. So this is actually my first time tasting it as well.
I haven't tasted it.
so
I know
good.
Steph has been sipping it. I have been smelling it. This smells fucking awesome. I've sworn because it deserved it.
Yeah, right.
And here's a
There'll be
perfect
a bleep
example
there.
of when you guys are talking about something on a podcast and I'm driving. I'm like, oh, no, that's true. The ABV does go up from sitting in a whiskey barrel.
Does it? Okay.
About 1 to 1.5%.
See, I've heard conflicting
Part
things.
of it is the evaporation. So, like, even though we put in 55 gallons, we're only going to get, like, 50 gallons out of it after 6 months because it gets soaked into the wood and evaporates. So that's, We had one guy who had a session Russian Imperial Stout, came in at like 6%. Mine wasn't done fermenting, so we capped it and we're just waiting, and all of a sudden the cap blows off the carboy. So like there's active yeast in mine. Another guy did a 12%er. It was all over the place.
Wow. What is the? Do you know what the percent is on this? You have no idea.
No clue.
This is.
It's probably going to be right at 10.
The
But-
ABV is awesome.
9 and
That's
10.
what it is. It's delicious. Do you have a name for it?
No.
What I really like about this is that it starts with a coffee, bitter dark chocolate, and then it sort of transitions
Sweetens out a
into a
little bit.
milk chocolate at the end. Yeah, and it's so weird because the aftertaste is sort of like not like the opposite of the initial taste, but like it starts bitter chocolate and it ends like creamy sweet milk chocolate. And I really like the way it's
a little. It's probably
transitions.
from the whiskey, like the oakiness, the vanilla notes at the end.
It's like I said, it's
good.
a perfect example of what 12 guys can do when you're super focused and everyone came to the table. Like even though we had, we told guys, we said, hey, we want to do this. We're going to do this project. Everyone was on board. Everyone showed up that night. Everyone had 5 gallons with them. We tasted every single one before it went in for quality control. Nobody got funky beer because most homebrewers at this point are super religious about sanitation.
right.
So
Yeah.
no sourness, and 3 months in, it's still
Just
coming along
imagine
great.
what this
What's
is
gonna
going to
be like
be.
Yeah,
August.
this
Yeah.
is going to
In
get
August.
I'm
incredible.
I think this will be the time when I pony up the money. Belgian bottle, cap with
cork
cork
and
and
cage.
cork and
Cage,
cage.
yeah.
Would be nice. Some beautiful labels
Yeah.
on there.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put something really
Be
nice
awesome.
on there.
This is like it's like a dessert. It's like
It's
a
the
really,
perfect end.
Yeah, it's like a really fine dessert.
I really, really like this one. It's got kind of like the coffee flavor that we had mentioned, but I will gladly follow up any meal with this.
And it's not in style with what I'm like. I'm a heavy IPA guy. I like Russian Imperials, but this is the first one that I ever came to the table with. And when they tasted, like, oh, this tastes good, I was like, sweat off.
You don't want to be that guy.
I don't want to be that guy who gets his beer kicked out of the club.
No barrel for you.
You'll have 12 new listeners after this podcast because they're all going to be wanting to know.
They want to hear what we thought
say
of it.
Hey, the
Oh,
more
it's
the merrier.
awesome.
It is.
This will get
We will be
fantastic.
guinea pigs
Yeah,
for
we will
every bottle
definitely
project.
enter-
Just about, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we'll definitely enter something like this into a competition.
And you
as a
should.
Good,
collaborative.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, this is really good. So, being the first time that you have tried it, what's your thoughts on?
And especially being somebody that doesn't drink this style that often, my Russian Imperial window is like January.
Yeah.
So that's when I drink it.
Okay.
No, I'm very happy with it, but I'm only 1/12 of who's made it.
You wouldn't believe that it's as young as it is, but it's good stuff.
Right.
And
It
thank
came
you
out-
so much for bringing a bottle from the
Yeah.
barrel. We feel very honored to
It
get
was
to taste
honestly, it was not a last minute thought, but after I was like, oh, you know what, I should grab one of those, and they were more than happy to pull the bottle off.
it. Kick-ass
Oh,
idea.
man.
We love it.
It was really good. Thank you. So dare I ask, what are the favorites?
Well, it was going to be the Hefeweizen, hands down. 'Cause I love
I don't
it.
know now.
But this is delicious. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
The mystery beer. Does this have a name? I'm sorry. Did
Nah,
you
I
mention?
mean,
okay.
I'll have to think about it.
I wrote it down as the Russian Imperial Stout Barrel Project. That's what I wrote down.
RISBP.
Yep.
Maybe I'll play around with some like Vlad the Impaler. I don't know, something.
There you go.
crazy
There
like
you go.
that.
That's a good idea.
Nosferatu. I think Great Lakes has a beer called Nosferatu. Actually,
Oh, yeah?
That sounds
Now that I think
familiar.
of it, yeah.
It does sound familiar.
Yeah, this is really good. This is like a fine dessert. Like this
Yeah.
is, and like I said, I can't get over that transition from the bitterness to the sweet as you drink
Yeah.
it. That's really awesome. But the Hefeweizen is probably a close second. Although I did really like the double IPA
Yeah, with the mango.
Mango,
That
yeah.
took it to a different level. It was good.
and the Trappist after the triple after your crazy spicy beers. I think those two actually went together really well.
It was a good palate
From one to the
cleanser
other.
to
Yeah,
get
it
us
was.
to his beers.
And like I said, it was like that cooling dose of ranch dressing that you put on your crazy hot wing. And yeah, so I don't know, but I'm gonna say that the
RAS
yeah,
VP.
the RISP is probably my favorite.
As much as I like this one, I would have to go with the Trappist being my favorite. That was really. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like there were any that I didn't like.
No,
They were
I
all
understand.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
they're
you.
all great
But
beers.
I would have to go with that one. But each had their own unique characteristic, more than just like, oh, it's this style of beer, but something that defines yours within that style that I really, really like. I mean, there was the one that reminded me of the Thai food that I always get, which is, sure, it's nostalgic in a way, but I really, really liked that. It paired it so well, and, the RISP is really good. The Hefeweizen was talked up so well.
That's what we're going to call it from now on. This is what we're going to call it.
Are there any that you're particular to?
Time
I know you've
for
got
the
Trappist
Sophie's
was your
choice.
house.
What's your favorite?
The mango IPA is like that girl who got away. I just can't seem to get it to where I want it.
Right.
There's
Like,
there's
it's
Hetty,
so
right
close.
here, and there's Here's Mine over here. I just want to get closer.
Keep
Using their, and I'll always use their yeast. Like I want to get it to a point where I can kind of replicate it, and it becomes another house beer. I have a 3-tap system at home. It's just a freezer that I turned into a kegerator, and so I want 3 house beers, and I think something along the lines of the Russian I'll put on there for a dark beer, but I don't brew quite as much as some guys do. I always brew 5 gallons, never more, because I like variety, so I want to constantly do something different. I have a 16-month-old son at home named Logan, and a wife who's going to be full-time student at Penn State Hershey for a PA program. So
cool.
My time is limited, so I actually take vacation days and brew from home while he's at school and she's at school. I have time to do I've mastered the art of doing a double batch, where I start the one batch and then halfway in between I start the process of the next batch, and so that I'm done in say 6-7 hours for 2 batches as opposed to 3 or 4 hours for one batch.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
So
That's a great way to spend
yeah,
your
I want to
vacation
do
time.
yeah,
it is.
it's calming. It's just me and the beer. So
Just me and the beer.
Yeah.
I like that.
That could be like an autobiography. Just me and the beer.
I want to do a white IPA next. That's my big one because it's the best of both worlds for me. It's hoppy and it's heffy. So
Hoppy and Heffy. I like that.
Hoppy and heavy. That's what you should call it. Hoppy
I
and
was
heavy.
hoppy and
say
heffy.
Yeah.
Have
Hoppy
2 little
and
cartoon characters
There you
like
go. A little hoppy
Tom
a
and
little
Jerry.
heavy.
Love it. Perfect.
Oh wow. Oh, these were all so good.
Thank you.
Oh my god. So
Is it not amazing, though, seriously, that there are homebrewers out there making amazing beer like this?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are commercial beers that are out of this world, but it is so awesome to acknowledge because some of the best beers I've had have been homebrew beers. So
Yeah,
it's so
I'll
great
agree.
to be able
I
to
would absolutely
have you
agree.
on the show and other homebrewers
Thank
on
you.
the show, and so show that we are making great
Yeah,
beer
If,
right in
if
our
I didn't
homes.
have a comfy, cushy federal job like I do with absolutely no chance of ever being laid off, I would probably try to pursue something because I'm that passionate about brewing.
That was going to be my question.
But I read a great article on Business Insider where they said the best quote I got out of the whole thing was, if you're happy making $30,000 a year and doing backbreaking work 50 hours a week, go ahead, become a brewer.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's true.
Yeah.
I missed the boat. Missed the boat of the 90s, so
yeah,
That's
it's
true.
fine.
See, there you go, Steph. $30,000 a year for backbreaking work, 50 hours a week. Are you ready for that?
Or it can be a homebrewer and do an awesome podcast.
See, exactly.
Not bad.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Chris. Cheers.
Yeah,
to
thank you
great
so
beers.
much
Yes.
for everything that you have brought. Now, one thing I did want to mention, actually 2 things I wanted to mention. So one, we found out the website for the Brew Club was
Sonsofalchemy.org.
simple enough. The other was, you had mentioned BYO Magazine, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I don't know if anybody is really aware of this, but BYO Magazine, they have a lot of good stuff that you can get in there for really not too much money. If you're interested, if you go to beerbusterspodcast.com, you can click a link through our site that you can get a free trial magazine, free trial issue basically. And if you like it, $28 from there gets you 8 magazines or 8 issues, which will end up being like $3.50 an issue. And it's a no pressure kind of thing. Check it out. Get the free issue. See what you think. Let us know what you think. There's a lot of good stuff in there that you can really get.
There's really good recipes too, which is what I really appreciate. Accessible, easy, great starting points for people that kind of want to start making their own recipes but are uncomfortable with kind of doing it from scratch. They have great advice and great recipes. They also have a really useful website as well.
Yeah. So there you go. Beerbusterspodcast.com. Click the link for BYO. Now that, unfortunately, my friends, does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters Podcast. And it was the band The Dubliners that said, "It's lonesome away from your kindred and all by the campfire at night where the wild dingoes call. But there's nothing so lonesome, so dull, or so drear than to stand in the bar of a pub with no beer."
Wah, wah.
That would be a travesty. Again, we'd like to thank Chris for coming out. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Please come
Appreciate it.
back anytime that you would like. As always, my friends, I am your host, Dan Baker, joined by our other host.
Steph Hefner. You didn't call me the brewologist. I was confused.
Listen, it's time for change.
Time for change. It's been a year.
Right, exactly. And yet another host and from entertainer.
Way bigger.
And thank you to both of you for an awesome, awesome year. This has been amazing. And to another 10 years of Beer Busters.
Exactly. Happy birthday to the Beer Busters.
Maybe the dingo ate your baby.